the new segment that we just mentioned to Steven is going to come up, so you don't want to miss that, everyone. Thanks for being here. Let's get things rolling.
To the Sales Slap podcast, where we hit you with the hard truths, bold strategies, and expert insights you need to master the art of selling. And who's leading the charge? Meet your hosts, Rick Denley, Simon Hares, and Scott Donald. Get ready for real talk, expert advice, and game-changing strategies. Because in sales, you don't just play, you slap. Let's dive in.
And away we go with our guest, Steven Rosen. Now, Scott, we should say again, unfortunately, Simon sent us a quick note this morning. What's going on with Simon? He's not here.
So, yes, we do miss Simon. If you ask Simon, he's the one that carries the show, so we're going to have to try to do this without him. But his dog, Artie, fell ill. I don't think it's a serious thing, but it has an eye issue. So he sort of frantically messaged us saying, gents, in his British accent, he wasn't going to be available because he's got to take Artie to the vet. So we're all praying and hoping that Artie, yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, so we're thinking of Simon and Artie this morning.
We had that brief discussion, and Steven's a dog guy too, which is going to come out later in a new segment that Scott's going to run. People, viewers, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be huge. Yeah. Steven thought he's a guinea pig, but he's not. He's just the first person in. So today we've got this powerhouse in our virtual studio, Steven Rosen. He's the guy who looked at chaos of modern sales leadership and said, enough, let's fix this. He's the author of Focused, a book that doesn't give you fluff.
Hold on, I wasn't synced there.
Hold on, ready?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't synced.
There you go, there.
Hang on, we're going to do this too. Keep it up.
Oh, he didn't get a picture of it.
All right, just got my picture on my Meta glasses here. I'm having fun with these things as well. So we got all sorts of technology happening. Let me finish. This book gives you leadership operating systems. Steven's work is all about helping sales managers stop reacting and start leading and protect the three things that actually move the needle: coaching, pipeline, discipline, accountability. Was that four? And if you're a sales leader who's ever felt buried, stretched, or stuck, or in firefighter mode, hello, this conversation is going to hit home. Steven, great to have you on the show.
Welcome.
I've been looking forward to this. I mean, there's a lineup of months to get on this show, and I finally made it.
It's hilarious.
We're glad to have you here. Steven, why'd you write the book?
Well, Rick, that's an interesting question. This book is my epiphany of 23 years as a consultant and I don't know, at least 10, 15 years as a sales leader. I see the same patterns repeating over and over again, where sales leaders are busy doing things, but they're not moving the needle. And, I started my business realizing and understanding, I think it still holds true, that coaching is the number one factor or sales leadership factor that drives sales performance. Yeah. So everybody knows this. This is not like news. I think I must have written 200 articles with that first line: sales coaching is the number one factor that drives sales performance. So I started I started training managers on how to coach. I developed my own coaching model, which was focused sales coaching. And what I realized is training on its own doesn't do the job. So I said to clients, okay, from now on, anyone who wants to work with me, I do training, and then I coach managers as a follow-up. And that worked okay. And then I had two clients where the head of sales got up and said after the training, whatever Steven taught us today, we're going to implement. And that was my epiphany, because those two projects where the sales leader jumped in, stayed part of the training, and the company worked towards implementing, that was where it worked the best. And that was what I call enforcement. So to me, that was like, okay, this is the way to make, coaching stick and to make organizations work better. And so, I joke, I'm a late bloomer, but it's taken me at least 20 years to figure out what the missing ingredient is. And that's what I talk about in the book. And that's why I wrote the book.
Now, where can people find the book right away? Where can they go out? Believe me, they want to get a copy of this. Where can they get it?
Well, Amazon, everything's available through Amazon. Now, what I also did is have a recorded version on Spotify. So you can pick up, an ebook. You can pick up the hard copy, or you can also go to Spotify and pick up a audio version.
Oh, I like that. I like that approach because a lot of times when I'm working out now, I like to listen to audio files. I listen to books and different things now. And it's a great time to do that while I'm working out. And then I get some knowledge as well. So
and driving the car, if you're, in sales and you're behind the windshield, a lot of people prefer to listen and use that time effectively.
That's a great idea. So jump in. What do you got for us?
So, I've obviously been aware of you and your work to an extent for a while. And I'll say this, we had you booked on the show, and I see an email come in from some guy named Mike Weinberg, and he talks about his podcast with Steven Rosen. So I listened to it, and I think I can say that I had a holy shit moment. And just in terms of like the conversation that the two of you guys had and the clarity on this. And it kind of reminded me that this notion of, training, and this kind of goes to your earlier story, training sort of by itself without the enforcement piece is not going to be nearly as effective. Now, I want to provide an example, and because we mentioned this before the show, it'll hopefully stick. So as we talked about before, Steven came on live with us. I'm still a goalie at my advanced age. And I grew up playing hockey in the 70s and 80s, and the style has changed. So I play once a week. And early in the game, if the game is going nice and slow, I can kind of keep my mechanics. I can do the butterfly and the RVH.
Wow.
And all the goalies are supposed to do.
That's impressive.
Can you get back up, though?
Okay, hold on. But this is where
imagery is interesting, isn't it?
Hold on. Guys, this is actually where it gets funny, because my issue isn't athletics, which is like with a lot of organizations. The issue isn't necessarily their sales process or their sales skills. It's what happens under pressure. So when I get tired later on, or if there's lots of frantic stuff, I will find myself moving away from my fundamentals, my mechanics. And I couldn't help but think several times while reading this book that the analogies that you provided reminded me of, the ability to stick to the fundamentals and the basics and be focused until stuff happens and then it falls apart. So, does that analogy ring true? Being a goalie dad, does that analogy ring true in terms of the ability to sort of stay focused on those critical factors, especially when things are getting hot and scrambly?
First of all, it's a great analogy. We know that sales managers are generally under pressure to deliver results, and organizations that are public are under quarterly pressure. So pressure is a constant, although it does ramp up towards the end of the quarter, which probably is around now or close to the end of a half. And what happens is, basically, the point I'm making is standards drift, execution drifts. We stop coaching because we got to close the deals. And there's nothing wrong with closing deals. We all want to close deals. But the key driver is actually improving your reps' capability to close the deal, as opposed to
themselves
analyzing the deals itself.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that you talk about, which I think is super important, is building capability, right? And then when the manager comes in and rescues the deals, I imagine those same managers at some point are probably bemoaning, I don't want to say complaining, but saying, oh, my reps, I wish they'd be more independent. I wish they would take on these things. Like I don't like being the hero, but they seem like they can't wait to put on their white cape and come in and rescue the deal. And that sets a perpetual thing in motion, doesn't it?
It does. And my buddy Mike Weinberg always talks about the hero sales manager who loves to put on the cape. And the whole reason why they do this is they actually care.
Yeah.
But sometimes intent is not important, not as important as what are you trying to accomplish. And so most managers were top reps. I bet you guys are all top reps.
Yeah. I was a bodybuilder most of my life. I just turned to sales in the last few years.
Scott, you know Mike Weinberg, don't you? Speaking of which,
I think he was on your show. Actually, it was.
So there's a funny story.
Simon got us on the show.
So Mike and I had a conversation in February of 2025, and I thought, well, and when we that was right around the time we started the show. That's about right. And I reached out to Mike to get him on, and oh, you know what, Mike's busy. Check with us in the fall, and then Simon reaches out to him and is like, yeah, I'd love to be on the show. So this is a bit of a running joke that Mike.
I understand.
I'd say there was a bit of a slap there.
So Simon is obviously more popular and more loved, but that's okay.
It's true. It's
okay.
I think
number 3. I mean, number 2.
We love Simon.
We do.
Listen, I'll be a number 2 to Simon any day.
Yeah.
Listen, I got a question for you here, Stephen. Listen, from the core claim, managers become bottlenecks. That was your statement in the book here. In the early chapters, you talk about how organizations unintentionally turn their best reps, which we're just talking about, into management bottlenecks. What's the biggest mindset shift of a new or struggling sales manager needs to make to move from being chief problem solver, which we just talked about, to being a true leader who scales performance through others?
Great
How do you
question.
do that?
Rick. So it's interesting because most sales leaders are busy, and they think, oh my God, I'm working so hard, 60 hours a week. It doesn't stop. The point I make early on in the book is busyness does not equal leadership.
Yay.
Right? The two are not the same.
Okay.
And being busy doesn't make you a great leader, and being busy doesn't bring in the results that you need. So
what then is new? Help out those new sales managers, who I want to call sales leaders. What's something they should be doing that's going to be helpful to their teams?
Well, for me, what I talked about earlier, I talk about my 3 things in there. Choose your 3 things, and I can talk a bit more about how that germinated and how I've used that. But the bottom line is, as I said, coaching is the number 1 sales management activity that drives performance. Just like selling is the number 1 activity that sales reps do that drive performance. So you want to be coaching as opposed to rescuing, responding to requests, sitting in marketing meetings. Not there's anything wrong with marketing meetings.
Be careful.
Yes, there is.
They suck up time.
Marketing time suckers. Okay, good. All right, I'm putting those words in your mouth. Now, you mentioned the 3.
No, you're not.
We don't. You don't have to get into them today, because I want people really to be intrigued to read the book. But the 3 things that you're mentioning about are coaching, pipeline, and accountability. Correct?
Actually, I throw in execution as accountability.
Okay.
But accountability is important, and usually when you do the pipeline reviews, to me, that's where the accountability comes in. But
coaching, pipeline, execution.
So I don't tell companies what their 3 things should be. In fact, I do a program that we actually will synthesize as a sales leadership group. What are the 3 things? Now, if coaching comes out number 1, so be it. But part of it is I'm not here to tell anybody what the 3 things should be. Although, I have my thoughts, but the belief is companies try to do too much. Managers try to do too much.
Yes.
And if you're doing too much, you become the adage, I think it's called a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
Right. There's no priorities.
You got it.
Well, everything is a priority. And I think that's one thing.
And then nothing's a priority.
So if that's the case, then nothing is a priority, right?
Love that. Yeah. And I like that too. 3 things. It's interesting when I speak on stages as well. I speak of 3 things, and I introduce that right away. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 key things. And they might be on leadership. They might be on something else. 3 is enough. 3. If we can handle 3, that's great. And that's all we should be doing. So I really love that point.
And Stephen talks about that a lot through the book, right? Why 2 isn't the right number, but 3 is the Goldilocks number of things to focus on.
There's some people who believe in the 3-6-9 methodology, but so if I can share with you guys, I was very lucky in my career that I was kind of a go-to guy, even though I didn't know anything. But I got promoted very quickly. I had 7 jobs in 7 years and ran 3 divisions. So when I got something new, it was like, what am I gonna do? Because the expectation was give it to Rosen and he'll make it successful.
Nice.
So I'd always sit down with my team and say, let's figure out the 3 things we need to do incredibly well to be successful. And I would write them on my, I'd have a board just like this one, back of my desk, and those would be the 3 things. So I came to that naturally. It wasn't like thinking, okay, this is going to be in a book one day. This was what I did. And this helped. And so then I've coached people for the last 20 years. And I always start with, what are the 3 things? Yeah, so to me, it was a natural transition into the book because I do think it works. And I think, once you go over 3, because I've done strategy execution workshops with folks, and they say, Steven, can't we pick 4? Steven, can't we pick 5? And I always say no, because it's too much. You don't remember. And the key is remembering. If you can sound off your 3 things, right, then you're halfway there.
And studies have been proven now that 3 things is enough. Plus, the brain can work with 3 things. We can remember 3 things. And for some reason, odd numbers we can work with better. 5's too many, 1's not enough. So that 3 fits perfectly.
By the way, Rick, this is how you do 3. That's just weird. That's
the Italian way of doing 3. It's good.
Being unique, my friend. You got to be different. 3, troisième. That's how it works. So, Scooter, you got another question for Steven Rosen over his book or any of the great work that he's doing with people and leaders?
So I have a bunch of dog-eared and underlined things here, and I'm looking over. I actually dictated a bunch of the quotes that I really liked, and this one I think really hits home. And I'm going to read it to you, and I want you to expand on it if you could. You'll recognize this. You protect coaching time. You run disciplined pipeline reviews. You enforce standards with your team. And then senior leadership blows it up. Talk about that, would you? We've already gone after marketing. Let's go after senior leadership now.
Yeah, let's go after senior leadership.
Now, I'm not promoting. Whoops. I should work on that. I'm not promoting my book. But
yeah, you are.
Here's the thing. Yes, I am. I know. But in many cases, people think this book was written for sales managers, and sales managers will benefit from the book. But the biggest block in organizations is not the frontline sales manager. It's the next level.
Yeah.
And this is who it's written for. There's CROs and the VPs of sales, as not to somebody felt it was like a punch in the gut when they read the book, because the reality is the problem is the system. My whole context is sales managers are good. Your sales reps are good. It's not a talent issue. It's a system issue. And if the system, being your boss, calls you up, whatever day today is, Friday, and says, tell me about this deal. I need to know what's going on. And you're busy coaching a rep, and you drop everything because your boss wants an answer, which they don't really need right away.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So there's a process problem in there as well. And Scott,
there's a process issue.
And what country am I in today? I travel a lot. Process, data. Anyway, the routine.
So, the manager has to say no to their boss. That's the uncomfortable thing about being focused. It's not about saying no now. It's about saying, no, I can't give you an answer right away.
Right.
But can we talk on Monday when we're scheduled to talk, and I'll give you the answer then.
Well, so managing is a challenge as well.
That's the biggest part of the problem, to be honest with you. It's a secret.
Back to poor leaders.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think what's important about we could go down this rabbit hole and we won't, but
you're bringing it there. I could feel it.
Well, hold on. So, but I want to put, because it's like you talked about. Senior leaders can say, we're going to spend X amount of dollars on this training program or on this sales playbook session.
Yeah.
But if it's not supported higher up, then that investment isn't going to be nearly as effective as it could be. Right. And so if you're saying, okay, we're going to go through this sales process and we're going to learn this discipline, and then somebody higher up blows it up because they call some emergency meeting because you're not hitting your numbers for the quarter or whatever the case is, is like there's a huge obligation / opportunity for senior leaders to kind of respect and support the sales function. Right.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I call that enforcement. And I know a lot of people don't like the word, but here's the thing. If you're asking your managers to, maybe you train your managers, that's sort of, and you train them on how to coach. If their boss, being the CRO or the VP, the RVP or whatever the case may be, doesn't in their conversations ask, Steven, how is it going with coaching Scott? if I don't ask those questions, because the question I usually ask are, how's it going with the Acme deal? I think I mentioned the old Acme deal,
Yeah.
right? And if they're not asking the questions of what's important, if they're not following up on the three things by simple coaching questions. How's it going with coaching, Scott? How is it going? You know, how many times have you been out in the field coaching this week? And if the answer they get is, I've been too busy to coach, there's a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I just say one thing is that there's an organization that I've had the pleasure of working with here in Winnipeg, really close to home, which is nice because, like all of us, I've traveled for work. It's nice to do stuff close to home. And I was about a third of the way into this book, and I actually sent them an email. Hopefully, they're watching it at some point. Hey guys, I said you guys need to read this book. Yeah, because so much of what you wrote there rings true of this organization in terms of growing. A new person being promoted from being, you know, one of the top and most senior reps into a leadership position, and I was seeing we're coaching, and everybody say, oh yeah, I've been really busy, so I haven't been doing these things, and I'm like, well, maybe if they read Steven Rosen's book Focused, some of the things that I've been encouraging them to do will come through, because you do such a great job of capturing this notion of you go through the process. See, Rick. Nailing down these three things, and you have some discipline, and then the whole thing goes sideways because somebody higher up isn't honoring the process.
Yeah,
and that's also part of the role of being focused. You have to say no sometimes, or not now. You know, we talk about rescuing deals. If you know, I'm on a podcast with two of the best podcasters in the business.
Thanks, Steven.
And a rep calls me up and says, Steven, I need help on this deal. And I say, okay, guys, I got to go because one of the reps need rescuing. That's where things break, because then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think you mentioned that earlier. Yeah. That they always call to rescue because you're better at closing deals. That's not your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this. This is a great point about saying no. So, you know, I was going to go down a rabbit hole, but I am not. We'll talk about this thing that I'm thinking. We'll talk about it next time, because I can't believe it. We're 22 minutes in now. How did that happen?
We're just running today, and this information Steven's given us is really so good. So whether it's Desikoff or actually Focused,
hey, that's a good.
You got to read this book. Steven, you challenged me. Steven's good because Steven challenges everybody, and again, I'm learning as I go through life not to take anything personal. And he gets back to me. He says, "Well, did you read the book?" Yeah. No. This is what he said to me. And I'm like, he put me on the spot. And the funny thing is how I read a book nowadays, because I have the attention span of a gnat. I think they call it adult ADHD. But the bottom line is that, but I read sections. I go through the index and go, ooh, that's interesting, because that's what I'm interested in. And I capture that. And just like Scott, then I'm sharing it with people immediately. I'm like, wow, okay, I just read this in this book. You don't have to go cover to cover right away. I dive into sections and pull out that information that's more relevant to me. And there's so much in here, which is so good. Now, I got to jump into a new segment that we've got that I've kind of hinted about here. So Scott and Steven are ready for this. They didn't rehearse it, but they're ready to go. And it goes quick, people. So we're going to go right into it.
Get ready.
Sheep.
If we go...
Wait, I didn't ask it.
Sorry, it was just
now I gotta come up with a question now. Damn
okay.
All right, get ready. This is a new segment, viewers, and I know you've been waiting for this one, and we're going to go right into it. So get ready. Timer's going to start. Let's have some fun.
It's time for the quick slap segment. Our host Scott asks our guest unrelated questions.
Unrelated.
Okay, ready? Dogs or cats?
Dog.
Last concert you attended?
Eagles.
Ooh, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, baby.
What's one thing people are surprised to learn about Steven Rosen?
That I'm introverted.
Oh, interesting. Oh, favorite movie you've watched more than 3 times?
I have to think about this one. The 10 Commandments.
Ooh, interesting. Not yours. Besides yours, what's the best sales book of all time?
Mike Weinberg, Sales Management Simplified. It's the only book I've read cover to cover.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
The ability to influence people.
Ooh, that's interesting. What else here? If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing?
Investment banker.
Oh, that sounds horribly boring. What's your go-to karaoke song?
I did it my way.
Ooh, nice. You know what? Is there a buzzer? Is there a buzzer?
There should be, but there wasn't. Nice. You got it in the time frame. And I learned more about Steven Rosen than I ever thought that I would.
So here's the thing. That's the first time doing it. Yeah. I actually felt like that went pretty good. What do you think, Steven? Being the first
I thought you were slow asking the questions. You were slowing me down.
Oh boy.
Scott,
you know what?
Sorry.
Wait.
You said I have to have fun today, so I'm trying.
No, I said you were going to have fun.
I'm trying.
Listen, that was fun. So I want another quote from the book that I'd like you to expand on.
I love those quotes from the book.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Immediate answers train immediate questions. Tell us what that means. I think I have a sense what that is, but what does that mean?
Can you repeat that?
Immediate answers train immediate questions.
I don't know what the hell I was saying there.
Interesting. Okay, so here's what I'll do. I'll provide some context,
please,
and you can respond to it. So it's this to me this speaks to this whole idea of managers can say that they have an open door policy, right? So then when a rep comes in the door and say Scott comes to see Steven, instead of you asking me, what have you tried already? Remember this whole thing, right? What have you tried already?
Yeah.
What are you doing? The notion of defaulting to being the hero and giving the rep the answer, as opposed to asking them the questions about what have they tried already, what could they do next? And then the quote came out: immediate answers train immediate questions. So given that context, can you expand upon why there's a better way to do that, to build capability and confidence in reps?
Okay, so the default when there's a performance problem is, we got to train more, right? And training doesn't always solve the problems, but coaching is a highly effective way at helping reps think, forcing them to think, because if you give them the answers, they're not thinking, and then they'll call you again the next time. So to me, coaching is very powerful, but it's not always a default. Default might be train, go read this. To me, part of it's asking questions, not giving the answer.
I love this so much.
I'm not telling, right? Because the easiest way to help people is, okay, do this, do that, but it doesn't help them in the long term. That's again a short-term fix. And coaching takes longer, but it's hopefully, and I believe it is, more effective.
Yeah. And I think so. So the thing I might add to this really, really quickly is that a couple of years ago, I was coaching a young leader in the oil and gas industry, and he was young and he was smart. So people would go to him for answers, and what he would do is he would answer them. Right? He felt good about himself. He had all the answers. And I said to him, "Do you have a dog?" And he says, "Yes, I do." I said, "Do you ever feed your dog at the table?" And he goes like this: "No, I don't." He's in a conference room all by himself. But I said, when you give people the answers, you feed the dog at the table, which means what? They're going to keep coming, right? So So I love your example about
they're not learning and growing themselves. It makes you feel good, but it's not good leadership.
It's short term. Short term. It's the whole thing that I'm trying to help managers with is, you can get the short term deal. Yes, you can get the short term fix, but then you continually become busy because you're the go-to guy.
Yeah. And everybody knows my theory on leadership, of course, is that our job is to help people be the best versions of themselves. It's to help them elevate and get better. And that's what we should be working on all the time, not to elevate ourselves and look like the genius all the time and build our own ego and credibility because everybody comes to me for the answers.
Well, then you're not doing your job. That's one of the early things I talk about, because busyness is not leadership. Coaching is leadership.
You talk about it in this book here. Is that what you're in this one?
Which one is that? Yes.
That's the focus book by the Steven Rosen guy.
Who gave guys enough?
Who gave the foreword to this, Steven? Who was that?
Oh, yes. Maybe he'll come on the show again without Simon asking him.
He's a very hard guy to nail down. He's very popular, very smart, very well spoken, and he's handsome too.
Yeah. I'll check with Simon if he can maybe get us.
Yeah, I would ask, but he won't respond to me. He'll only respond to Simon, and he knows that.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I've known Mike for a number of years, and I truly, this is a guy I respect. So just given you brought this up, I started writing the book, and then I thought, I don't know, is it good? Is it bad? I'm going to ask for feedback. So a couple of people I asked for their feedback earlier on, and I called or I texted Mike and said, would you read my book?
Yeah.
And I said, give me he's about blunt, no bullshit, direct. So I said, please don't worry about my feelings. Tell me what you think. And then, I don't know, a week or two later, I get a note saying, I don't know if he used the F word, but he said, I love it. so that was validation for me in many ways. Good. And then he so happened to be in Toronto, and we were planning on meeting. We hadn't seen each other in 15 years. And, I went down. We were watching an NFL playoff game.
Yes, that's right. I remember you said that in the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good story. And that's people meeting people. And I love that, and supporting each other too. And listen, we missed Simon today, but it is a brilliant book, as he would have said, having read it as well. Go out and get a copy of this on Amazon. Steven, thank you for being on the show. How can people connect with you to learn more about your coaching and all the great training and things that you do?
So now, just so you know, the focus is about building sales leadership infrastructure, building the infrastructure to make things tick. So I've got a website. It's starresults.com. So you can find me there. Okay. I'm on LinkedIn, probably more often than I would want to admit. But,
Me too.
I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. So you can find Steven Rosen, or you can email me at steven@starresults.com. Of course, the book, as I mentioned, is available on Amazon. You mentioned that. And Spotify, if you're an audio learner.
For the audio learning.
That's awesome.
We thank you for being on the show today, don't we, Scott?
And
for being
is it over?
Guest.
I've waited so long. We can't end it so soon.
Man, we wrap up. We do it quick. This is a 30-minute workout for people. People are watching this and listening to it while they're driving and working.
Millions of people.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And thank you for being Scott's first guest.
No, I did it within the 60 seconds, even though
I know I was talking slowly.
Having trouble with the questions.
Well, he's a little slow and dyslexic.
It's okay.
We love him. So
I'm doing the best I can with the tools
We're inclusive here.
Well, we are. There's a lot of DEI, and that's why he's on the show. All right, everyone. It's Friday. Viewers, thanks for watching this. Get out. Get Steven's book. Connect with him on LinkedIn and his website. Keep growing as leaders. Thanks for being on the Sales Slap, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
For attending the Sales Slap podcast. Feel free to reach out to your hosts, Rick, Simon, and Scott, and our guests from this episode for more
Steven
information.
Rosen.
We look forward to seeing you next time.
Hey, Scooter, just quick, who's on next week?
Next week is a guy named Larry Levine.
Oh, we might know about Larry.
Yeah, Larry's going to be a second-time guest, just like Steven will be someday.
Someday when I write my second book.
Exactly.
We'll be back. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Thanks, guys. Gentlemen, I should say.
Everybody.
Are we still live?